Welcome to the Range Podcast. I'm Ricky Brule, and with me is Jake Hollywood Iverson. Join us at the archery range, where we'll tell stories from the hunt, discuss technical bow shooting tactics and gear, and pick the brains of some of the most successful people to ever shoot a bow. Whether you're about to shoot that X for the win or send an arrow at a trophy buck, this podcast is for you. The Range Podcast is brought to you by Dialed Archery, makers of the best bowstrings money can buy, originators of limb-driven arrow rest technology, and innovators of Stokerized stabilizer systems. Welcome to The Range, everybody. I'm your host, Ricky Brule, and ladies and gentlemen, can you believe it? This is episode 100 of The Range Podcast. Insert audio clip of people clapping and yelling and cheering. Big thanks to all of the listeners. Obviously, we couldn't do this without you, so if we didn't have downloads and listeners, I wouldn't be able to keep this thing going. And so super glad you're all with us today. You can find the video version of this episode on the Vapor Trail YouTube channel, so make sure you head on over there, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. And, of course, if you're listening, give us a rating and a review. Only 5 stars will do. So today, got up super early, packed up all my gear, and took a little road trip. I was going to pick up Hollywood on my way, but he's been deathly ill for the last 5 days. He's pushing 102 temperature, so he decided to stay home. We didn't want to have him hotboxing us in the car on the way up here. We stopped and picked up Damon Wolf of All for One Creative, and we made our way up to the office of one of the co-founders and co-owners of Dialed Archery, Mr. Scott Bakken. How you doing, brother?
Good. I'm glad you guys made the trip. I didn't know about Hollywood. That sucks.
Yeah, he's not doing so hot, and he's wanted to get to. He's jealous that he can't keep. The couple times that we've come up to Dialed HQ, he wants to come up, and he goes, man, God just doesn't want me to meet these guys. And I was like, no, man, it's the devil, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, wishing him a quick recovery.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for taking time out of your day. This is pretty cool. You got a pretty rad office here. You got some African animals in here, and you got the banners hanging on the back wall and everything's a sweet spot.
Yeah, it's proof that I actually do some work every once in a while when I'm home. But it's a good spot. And like we were kind of talking when you guys got here, it was between Dialed HQ and like where I live, I mean, it is like kind of a hike. And just finally needed a spot where, a dedicated work spot and, where we can meet, have, stuff like this happen. So, it works.
Yeah. Yeah. This is super nice. So this is really cool.
Plus, it got my pedestal mounts off the floor of my parents' basement. So
there you go. Yeah.
So that was mainly the main reason.
Yeah. You can make them shine. You got some plants in here.
Yeah. Trying to not make it look like a total, bachelor pad, but like this is actually a professional setting. But so I thought a little plant would help with that. But I keep forgetting you got to water those.
Yeah, right.
So
plants.
Yeah, they need water and sun, not just sun.
Exactly.
So
there's something about that. Like I have a tiny little like jade plant on my desk, and Rory and the guys always kind of make fun of me for because it's like I'm trying to create this little Zen meditation space where I'm at, but I'm like, it takes a special amount of skill to keep a plant alive.
It really does. It really does. That's why I could never be a farmer because I would fail because I suck at getting things to grow.
Yeah.
Like anybody that's ever been part of like me trying to do food plots.
Yeah.
It's more just to say I do it.
Yeah.
Because you don't expect anything to grow.
Yeah.
The fact that thing is held on as long as it has, it's a testament to its durability because I have not taken care of that plant.
Yeah, well, exactly. And, when it comes to farming, too, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I can do the grunt work part, but the finesse part I can't do, so that's where my wife comes in.
Yeah.
She does a good job of keeping up on that. I can't do all that
stuff. Just like playing with dirt, so.
Yeah.
But the actual growing part, that's not my specialty.
So I just recently saw, man, you guys got to meet Brantley Gilbert.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's pretty sweet. So he was playing a show not too far from here?
Yeah, so he had a concert at the Ledge, which is just on the west side of St. Cloud, which is just right down the road from the Dialed shop.
Mm-hmm.
And Taylor, the other founder and owner of Dialed, he had been communicating with Brantley's manager. And Brantley's actually been running an Arxos for like the last 2 years.
Okay.
Bought it from us. Like, we had no clue.
Oh.
Obviously he didn't personally, like, it wasn't under his name, so it was kind of camouflaged.
Okay. Like a dealer got it or something.
His manager
okay.
ordered him.
Yeah.
And Jordan Riley, who's, the third founder, he's like, he should be a detective, because I mean he
Sleuthy.
he can find anything about anyone. And so he like Googled this guy and found out like he was Brantley's tour manager, and we're like, oh shit, like did Brantley just order a couple sites? And then sure enough, you see it on social media and stuff. We're like, well, that's pretty cool, but like didn't really think anything of it. And a guy like that, like, I mean, he can shoot whatever he wants, right? So it's like, whatever. And so Taylor had been communicating with his tour manager, when we found out he was going to be in our area, and kind of just started the ball rolling. And we actually built him a custom Brantley Gilbert site. So it had all of his branding, his name. It was pretty freaking cool.
That's awesome.
But so we were able to, meet him personally, present him with his site, talk to him, and, brought our whole team with, and then I got to saw a show. And I've always been like a big fan of his music, kind of that country rock vibe, but I think like he's kind of he has a lot of similarities to like us and like Dial, just as far as like our personality and our beliefs. Like the dude is just 100% red, white, and blue, a patriot.
Yeah.
And very much has the like, I don't give a fuck attitude. Like, he's nice. And I mean, he is truly like, I mean, just like from just meeting him that day, you can tell, like, I mean, he just like, he truly loves what he does. He's very passionate. He's very passionate about the outdoors and hunting, but he's also the guy that's like, God, family, country, and so I've always appreciated that, and like, the message that he promotes, and the fact that he's been through hardships in his life and overcome it. So it was just a very, I'll be honest, like I wasn't excited until we got there. Like, I mean, like being in the industry as long as we have, like, you meet all kinds of people.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, they're just normal people, right? But then actually meeting him and like talking to him, I'm like, holy shit, like, this is Brantley Gilbert, like, it's pretty fucking cool, And I was like, just don't say anything stupid, like, because with me, you never know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it was super cool, and it was cool to build him a site, and hopefully he puts it to use and gets to enjoy it. But yeah, it was pretty cool, and like I said, I think the coolest part was to see like our team and like how much fun they had. And that's kind of like, like this was what it was all about, right? And I mean, like Taylor and I were even, when we like went to meet him, we were like shuffling everybody in first. We're like, this is for you guys, like we're at the end of the line to meet him, so it was fun. And he puts on just a hell of a show too. So it was a lot of fun.
That's cool.
So
did you have an opportunity to sit down and like have any meaty conversation with him, or was it just kind of like?
No, it was, I mean, because it was right before he was going on, and this is another thing I appreciated about him. Like they're on a very tight schedule, right? But it was important for him to meet us. But then right after he met us, he's like, I gotta go FaceTime my wife and kids before I go on, right?
Yeah.
And that was his top priority. So we were like, yeah, man, like we're out, like like we won't take up any more of your time. So no, like we really didn't get to like sit down and like talk like this. But like I thought that was very cool, like that he was going to take the time to check in with home before he went on stage, because being in Georgia, they're on Eastern time zone, so they're an hour ahead of us. So I thought that was pretty cool, but no, I mean, hopefully, like I said, he likes his site, and we'll see what comes of it. But it was just, I mean, it's just another cool experience to add to the kind of the Dialed, archives.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's been a lot of fun to kind of watch you guys grow coming out of the pandemic, and we'll get a little bit more into the business side of things. I did quite a bit of research in this conversation. I mean, we've known each other for a while, so it's not like I didn't have, not to discredit your celebrity in the industry or anything like that, but I didn't have any concerns about whether I was going to say something stupid. But you've done a lot of podcasts, and so there's a general theme around them. So I wanted to try to have some sort of unique conversation. And one thing, and this isn't to say that you haven't had these conversations with other people, but I just want to know, it's simple to get into because we always have this conversation on the Range podcast. We like to get just like a brief introduction. I mean, for anybody who's been living in a cave for like the last 5 years and they don't know that you're part of Dialed, I mean, obviously they know that, but just want to get to know a little bit about more about you on a personal level, especially with the archery thing. So just give us just kind of a brief introduction of yourself, and then also what got you into hunting and then eventually picking up a bow, which then kind of led you into this room where we're talking now.
Yeah. So it's kind of funny because like I think there actually are plenty of people that have no clue that I'm part of Dialed, because I am more behind the scenes, which is fine. I'm not, we were talking earlier, like I'm not on social media, like I'm not a marketing guy. Like I like flying under the radar. So I think there's plenty of people that, don't know, just about Dialed in general, but like who, are behind it. Kind of archery to me, it's, I've had that conversation multiple times, and it's like I'm sitting here thinking like I don't really know, like I can't think of the exact moment where I was like I'm going to get into archery, right? Like it was kind of ever since I was a little kid, archery was just like, it was just always very attractive to me. And I didn't come from a hunting family. Like my dad wasn't a hunter, my mom and, either side of my parents' family, my relatives. And it wasn't my uncle, who is my dad's sister's husband. When they got married, he was a big bow hunter. So that was kind of like my first like introduction to like archery and bow hunting. But I didn't really think it was like cool until, I'll never forget. And I used to be able to remember like the actors and stuff, but it was like the first Disney movie, or the first Robin Hood movie that Disney did, not the animated with like the critters and stuff. Like it was a black and white, like movie about Robin Hood.
Yeah.
And, I remember the opening scene is this dude, he's got a longbow and he's trying to shoot this, this tiny little stick, and he's like hitting it, and then all of a sudden it moves and, whatever. And, but then watching this dude just snipe bad guys with a bow and arrow, I just thought that was so badass, and, so it really, I would say that's kind of what ignited my interest to archery, like as a whole.
Yeah.
And cause like right away, like I started building my own like stick bows. Like I was cutting down trees in my parents' yard and like, bending them and putting braided fishing line across them and making these stupid little, bows and chasing striped gophers with them and stuff. But like the more time I spent around my uncle, that's when like the bow hunting bug like hit me.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even just like necessarily bow hunting, but like I wanted to be a hunter. Like, I would say probably since I was like 5, I was like, I want to be a hunter. Like, I just thought it was the coolest thing, dressing up in camo, painting your face, like getting so close to like these animals and stuff. And then it turned out that the more interest I showed into archery, my dad got into it. So then like he started bow hunting with my aunt and uncle, and I was very fortunate to where, my aunt and uncle had private land in northern Wisconsin. So I had a place to go, but just being part of like deer camp, and, so yeah, like I said, like I got bit with that bug very young. And it's even like just recently I was at my parents' house, and, how moms save like all your old school projects and stuff like that. And she pulled this box out and she's like, you should look through some of the stuff. And it was like all my old like art projects. And, you know, when you're learning how to write and stuff, like you always had to write these little mini storybooks and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And every single one of mine, like no exaggeration, every single one of mine was about killing an animal. And it's like, I'm reading this, I'm like, holy smokes, if this was now and a teacher read this, like I would be in a psych ward because like it was so graphic and so detailed. Like I shot a bear in the heart and I pulled its guts out, and like it was very detailed and graphic. And but like all of them were like, Scott's a great storyteller. Scott, like like, oh, he's so creative and imaginative. And but I mean, these were experiences that like I like experienced through my dad and my uncle.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was like obsessed. And you know, when all the other kids were into like sports and you know, whatever, I was into hunting. And like, you know, I remember Sunday mornings I was up at like 5:30 and I was watching hunting shows. Like that was my schedule. And I remember like Super Bowl Sundays when everybody's watching the Super Bowl, I was watching Sunday night hunting shows. So it's always been like, you know, a big part of my life. But it wasn't until like I was almost like, there was a point in my life where I was almost embarrassed by it because like I would say it was like that middle school age, which that's a very, very tough time, awkward time.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that time frame from like, you know, 10 to 14 or 13, that's like the worst time in like any kid's life. Right.
Yeah.
But the fact that I was so obsessed with hunting made it even worse because I didn't have any friends that were that serious about it as I was. So hunting even became like more important to me because that was like where I felt like I could be me, right? That's where like I was comfortable and that's what I wanted to do. Like I didn't care about going to Friday night football games or, you know, whatever. All I wanted to do was spend time in the outdoors. And, you know, and whether it was hunting or fishing, I just wanted to be out in the outdoors exploring.
Yeah.
And then it just, you know, snowballed as the older I got. You know, you get your driver's license, you can start traveling. And, you know, and then it wasn't until like, I don't know, probably like my junior year, I kind of was like, I want to make this a career. And right about that time, my uncle that got me into like archery and bow hunting, he started a small archery company called Pine Ridge Archery, which is still alive today.
Oh, no way. I didn't know.
Yep. So that was,
with that.
yep, that was my uncle. And now his right-hand man, who's always kind of been like an older brother to me, is running it and owns it. But that's like getting involved with that and like him taking me, like I remember going to the very, very first ATA show. Like the very first year it was ATA, I went with my uncle and my dad.
That's cool.
And so that was when like I got the first taste of like the archery industry. And then, like I said, it was like my junior year. I'm like, I want to work in the archery industry. Like, I don't give a shit about anything else. And it kind of changed. Like, I quit caring about school. I kind of just quit caring about everything because I'm like, I'm going to be a bow hunter. Like, I don't need education for that. Like, you know, and then, you know, it just, like I said, it kind of snowballed from there. You know, and then, you know, I've been very fortunate to go on a lot of trips and do all kinds of cool stuff. But like, I think we can all agree, like that first deer or that first animal you kill with your bow is always your favorite. Right. And that's the one that like, I can remember every little detail. I can remember the date, the time, like everything about it. And as horrible as an experience that was, because you think hunting and archery and all the stuff, but then when you kill that first animal and you take that first life, it hits you like, holy shit, there's a whole nother level to this that I didn't even realize. And I remember like it's supposed to be this super exciting, you know, experience. And I remember laying in bed that night and just crying because I was like, I took this animal's life. Like that deer was probably like my age, you know, like, you know, you start like, but then I think having like realizing that feeling right away, like, cause I still feel that way, like killing an animal sucks. Right. But it's necessary. And it's just, that's ultimately the end goal. But, I've always respected animals, you know, and, I've just always have been drawn to the outdoors. And like I said, that's where I felt like the most comfortable. It's like growing up, I never really fit in. Like, there wasn't like a group of people that like I fit in with. Like I was always just kind of an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
And, I say like, going through high school, like I got into some pretty bad shit, hanging out with the wrong, people, getting in trouble,
Mm-hmm.
doing drugs and whatever. And, a lot of it, like my parents don't even know about, but
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe if it wasn't for like the outdoors and like archery, I it's like it's almost scary to think like where would I have ended up?
Yeah.
Because when I felt like I was slipping down a bad path and then I'd go up to the cabin, it would completely change, like reset my mind and be like, yo, dumbass, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like going and getting high every weekend and shit. Like that's like why?
Yeah.
Like this is where your serenity is. Like this is where you're the happiest. Why are you hanging out with these people that don't even give a shit about you?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's like when I graduated high school, that's where I kind of made the switch. And I was like, the outdoors is like, that is who I am. And, I was very lucky to have connections through my uncle to where I kind of got my foot in the door very young and got the attention of people that like kind of followed me as I grew up. So then when I graduated college, I had a job waiting for me in the outdoor industry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like, I mean, you probably get the question all the time from people. It's like, how do I get in the outdoor industry? And it's like, it's hard.
Do you want to?
Yeah. Well,
That's
first,
the first question.
Are you sure you
Do
want?
you really want to
Are
do
you
that?
sure about that? But so I was very lucky, that I had, that opportunity. And then from there, it just like the deeper I got into it, the more I wanted, and then, it's looking back, it's like I'm very fortunate for the opportunities that I've had, but I'm also like, was this the right decision? Because now, I mean, I'm 40 and like my passion for archery is still there, but my dedication is like, like we were joking, like I hardly shoot my bow. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I spend so much time, working with other people and stuff. It's like when I do have time to like shoot my bow, I want to go golfing or something. Like I want to do anything has nothing to do with a bow, but
Right.
my passion is still there. Like I truly love archery and the outdoors. And I think, well, I don't think, but like Dialed is a product of that. Right. And so like you kind of mentioned it, like coming through COVID, Dialed is kind of a bastard child of COVID because that's where the concept was designed. Right. But leading up to that, like I had kind of, I started off right out of college as, a manufacturer's rep, running the road, selling stuff for 15 different companies, going to all the trade shows. And it was the best job I could have for that age because I met a ton of people, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, a lot of those people are no longer in the industry, which so I call those like the good old days.
Yeah.
Because that was when, like Vapor Trail was just getting started then. Like you had all like the mom and pop, like privately owned companies, right? And everybody was just like, this is great, whatever. And then private equity comes in and changes the whole environment, right? And then that's what I would say is like the downward spiral of our industry and just, not just our industry, but several industries. But so working my way, like kind of climbing up the corporate ladder, I went from being a sales rep to moving to Pennsylvania, and I was a buyer for Kinsey's, which is like one of the largest archery distributors.
Yep.
But every opportunity, I looked at it as like growing. Like I always wanted to learn more. And I still am like, I'm a sponge. Like I just want to absorb everything and anything I can. And so I always had like kind of this plan of like climbing that corporate ladder and like making it a 3 to 5 year commitment and then moving on just so I could keep growing. And I didn't realize it until later on, but it's like, if you're not moving forward or you're not growing, you're dying. And so fast forward to like 5 years ago and the job that I was in, it was a great job, great company, but I wasn't growing, and if anything, I was kind of like going backwards. And, again, it was kind of messed up times with COVID and just kind of chaos and uncertainty or whatever. And like, it was just like every day, like I was sitting there, I'm like, what am I supposed to be doing? again, I have a great job and I'm thankful for that, but I'm just like, I'm dying, and I need to do something. And, at that time, Taylor and Jordan and I were friends. And, through COVID, like I talked to Taylor every day, and because you had nothing to do, I mean, I remember I had like daily FaceTime, meetings with buddies where we just sat and drank and FaceTimed, because it was like, that's all you could do.
Yeah.
And Taylor was one of those. And, it's very, we were just talking about this the other day. Like the one thing I think and I didn't realize this until now, like there are no coincidences, right? Like whatever you believe in, like, there's a higher power, there is a plan for you. Like I never knew what that plan was, but now if I think back, it's like everything led up to this point. And it was ironic that Taylor and Jordan were in the exact same boat, and all of us were ready for a new challenge and something new. And so I remember one night we were talking, I'm like, why don't we just start our own company? And everybody just kind of laughed, like, oh, Scott, like, have another whiskey. And I'm like, no, like, for real. Like, I mean, we have 3 guys that are very passionate. We were all very, like, we're gear junkies, right? And, at the time, we all, like, agreed, like, the industry could use a shakeup, right? And I remember I was talking and I've told the story millions of times, but I still, like, it's funny because every time I tell it, it's like, I'm like, son of a bitch. Like, I didn't realize it at the time, but I'm like, this is what I've been working towards. I just didn't know it, right? And so prior to Dialed, like, again, kind of going through this awkward phase of like, what is I'm supposed to doing? I actually had the opportunity to purchase a company, and it didn't work out. But going through that process, so like, okay, so back up, like Pine Ridge. My plan was Pine Ridge was going to be mine. Like, I always thought that, we would keep it in the family, and that at someday my brother and I, so I have a younger brother that's in the industry too.
Okay.
Very similar story. Way better hunter than I am. But I thought that was the goal. Like we would buy Pine Ridge and, we would keep it in the family. Well, then my uncle sells it to his right-hand man. I'm like, well, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah.
Like, now what am I supposed to do? Like, you just totally took my future away from me, But like, I'm
meant to be.
Yeah. I mean, I'm super happy, how it all, played out. But having that taste of like entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Like, that's when I was like, this is what I want to do. And like, my dad owns his own business. My uncle owned his own business. And I'm like, this is what I want to do. So then, Taylor and Jordan and I start talking, and I was on the phone with one of my buddies, and I'm like, dude, I got a crazy idea. I'm like, what if I started my own archery company? He's like, you should. I'm like, yeah, but like, to own your own business, you got to be smart and like, have all this knowledge and whatever. I'm like, I don't know anything. Like, I'm a dumbass that likes to spend time in the woods, right?
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Well, and like, I didn't even, that term, right? Yeah. Like, I never gave myself credit for what like the resume I had built. Right. And because again, at the time I had no clue what it was I was trying to do. And, so I was like, yeah, but what if, like, cause I mean, it would have meant like, just completely, quitting my job and making all these sacrifices. Right. I'm like, but what if it doesn't work? Then what? And he's like, that could definitely happen. He's like, but what if you don't try? I'm like, I'd probably regret it. So then that night I called Taylor. I was like, yo, I think we should do this. And he's like, I'll call you in the morning. And he calls me in the morning and he's like, let's do it. I'm like, are you for real? Like, are you joking with me right now? He's like, nope. He's like, I talked to my wife. He's like, let's do it. I'm like, sweet. What are we doing? Like, yeah. Okay, cool. What are we going to make? He's like, I don't know, but it's got to be cool. It's got to be techie. It's got to be high end. I'm like, sick. Okay. I'm going to go quit my job. Like,
how cool is that though? That like, so there's all this preparation that comes into this and all these things that have led up to that moment. And then it's just like cause I've had instances in my life too, where all of a sudden I'm just like, you know what? I got to shake it up.
Right.
And you just do it. And then, I hear this term all the time about entrepreneurship and running your own business. And and I guarantee you can attest to this, is it's like jumping off a cliff and building an airplane on the way down.
100%. Yeah, I mean, 100%. And like, I mean, so the one thing I will say, like, I was very lucky because at that point in my life, well, and I'm still not, but like, I wasn't married, didn't have kids. I had nobody depending on me, right? So if I was going to take a risk, and if it didn't work out, man, I'll rebound, right? Like, I'll go work at Quick Trip or something like that. You know, I hear that's a great place to work, you know? And so I wasn't really worried about like if this didn't work out. I didn't really care. Like, I just wanted to try it, right? Like I said, I'd already had that taste, and now I have like my two best friends on board and we're all fired up. It's like, let's fucking go, right?
Yeah.
And so fast forward, you know, we start making plans. You know, and there was a time where I was like, man, because the company I work for, like, I truly, like, I loved like the brand. Like, I bled for it. Like, I loved it. But at the end of the day, there was just no end game, right? And again, like, I realized, you know, and again, like, it took a long time for me to realize this, but like, I am my own worst enemy. Like, nobody is harder on myself or hates myself more than me. And I was very, very hard on myself and just never gave myself enough credit. So I just always kind of felt like this is all you're meant for, right? But deep down, I knew I had like all this experience and like these tools in my tool belt that weren't being utilized, and I don't think they ever were going to be. And like, it's like perfect. Like, so funny example is, like, you know, I do 75 hard every year, twice a year. So that's 3 months I have to quit drinking, which, you know, I don't drink near as much as I used to, but, you know, I enjoy a cocktail every now and then. But my buddy Jeff was like, well, you quitting drinking just seems like a waste of good talent, you know? And we laugh about it, but that's like, I think back to that time, and it's like, I had all these tools in my tool belt where, like, I don't know if I'll ever get to use them. And it's like, all that time I spent building that artillery and not getting to use it is a complete waste, right? So it felt like, again, like nothing is a coincidence. Like, the timing, like, everything just lined up, and it's like, this is it. This is what is meant to be happen. You know, it's like Step Brothers. Like, this is the whole reason we came together, right? I mean, this is the reason why Taylor and Jordan I met. This is the reason, like, you know, like, it just, all the start, like, there was just way too many like signs pointing at this to ignore it. And the more we talked about it and the more we kind of got into the weeds, and it's just like, this was supposed to happen. Right. And I'm like, and I remember I said this to somebody one time. I'm like, if only I would have realized this 10 years ago. Cause like I said, I'm 40 now. Like, I mean, like, I'm not getting any younger, right? But it's like, if I would have realized this 10 years ago, imagine, you know, how far ahead I would be. But I remember that this person I was talking to, he's like, well, if you would have done it 10 years ago, you would have failed. I'm like, true. Because 10 years ago, I was a total shithead. Like, you know, I didn't have any dedication. Like, I didn't care. I just wanted to go and party, you know, like, so it's just crazy how everything just kind of came together. And, it's like, once we started talking about it, like, there was no turning back. Like, there was no unplugging. And, it just spiraled from there. So
it's such a cool story. And I've heard many different variations of it on some of the episodes, the podcast episodes that I've listened. And you just recently, was the most recent one you did was with Alex Comstock, Whitetail DNA. And so listen to that one. And then I went back and I listened to the one you did with Aaron Snyder, Born Primitive. And so
that was a fun one.
And part of that one that I was able to identify with the most is that you both are in the industry, right? So and I feel all of it. Everything you guys say, I feel it too, because, you know, being with Vapor Trail for almost 20 years, I've seen it all. It's just, and it's tough. It's hard to stay positive. You know, like, when you were at that moment where you were kind of like, now what? You know what I mean? And then, you know, maybe you have an idea or you have this thing that you think is really going to take off, and it just gets kind of buried. You bring it to the people's attention, and they're just like, I ain't gonna work. And it's like what am I here for? What is my purpose here? You know,
it's a super tough, and I think now, like, if I were to go back, and I would have a totally different understanding of, like, you know, like, there's, like, the grass isn't always greener, right? Mm-hmm. There's always frustrations. There's always, like, you know, I mean, even now, like, I mean, I have thoughts or ideas, and I don't always get heard, right? I mean, that's part of it, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And you can't get frustrated about it, because, like, it just means, like, you either got to find a different way to present it, or
now's not the time.
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
5 years down the road.
But, you know, I think, and I've listened, you know, because when we started Dial, the first thing I did was, like, I mean, I listened to every podcast I could on entrepreneurship. I listened to every podcast I could about, you know, starting a business. I read every freaking book I could. Mm-hmm. And, you know, the one thing, like, whether you own your own business, so, like, to steal, like, terms like entrepreneur versus entrepreneur, right? They both are equally important, but it's two completely different people, right? Mm-hmm. And as somebody that, like, I don't like being told what to do. I don't like people, like, dictating what I can and can't do. Mm-hmm. And, like, I don't like somebody else having control over, like, my destiny or, like, my success. Mm-hmm. And that was, like, the big holdup for me, is that these other people control how far or how high I can climb. And that was kind of the moment where I'm like, this is great, but this is not for me. Like, mm-hmm. and again, but it took me, I mean, 35 years to realize, like, that is who I am. I mean, ever since I was a little kid, like, I knew I didn't like being told what to do. None of us do. Right. But, mm-hmm. So it is, so recognizing that, but then also, like, there's a process to, like, sort through, like, is this just, like, a temporary feeling? Like, am I just kind of being, like, a little bitch about this? Which I definitely had that conversation. You mm-hmm. know, I'm like, dude, you're just being a little bitch. Like, stop complaining. You have a great job. You're making good money. Like, no, like, it was easy, mm-hmm. very easy, right? Yeah. But it was complacent. Yeah. And I hate complacency. Yeah. I hate mediocrity. Mm-hmm. And that, I kept coming back to that. And it's like, if I truly want to try to reach, like, my full potential, I got to leave here, right? And I got to take a risk. And like I said, I mean, I was very fortunate to be in the position I was, where I could risk everything, and with no repercussions, really, right? Yeah. Like, if I lost it all, move back in with my parents and start building again, right? Like, no big deal. Where, you know, somebody, you know, like Taylor and Jordan, who were married, had young families, it was a totally different ball game for them, right? And it took a lot of convincing, you know, of their wives, but they had already owned their own business together, right? So mm-hmm. they knew, like, they could, like, be in business together, right? Mm-hmm. And, like, own their own business again. Yeah. So, but, you know, like your term, like, we had no plan. It was, let's just jump off the cliff and we'll build this plane. And that got said. I mean, I didn't remember it until right now. Like, I don't know how many times we said that. Like, we're building this airplane in the air. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's not all, you know, rainbows and kitten dicks. Like, and it's not for everybody. And there's been plenty of times where I'm like, fuck, like, was this the right move? You know, mm-hmm. But for every day I have that thought, there's 364 days where I'm like, God damn, like, I couldn't imagine doing anything else, mm-hmm. you know, but.
And I think you always have to kind of ask yourself that. It's kind of like your check-in, you know, just to make sure, like, okay, is this what we want to do? And listening to, like, you talking about diving into it and some of the problems that you're running into, right? Like, there's no amount of podcasts or entrepreneurial books you can read that are going to prepare you for.
They're all full of shit.
You get like TJ, for example, comes into play, and he's arguably one of the best engineers in the industry, right?
Wow.
And
he's good, but
so
I don't want to build him too up, because then everybody's going to want to work with him. So.
Well, in all fairness, I wish we had worked with him and I had known him earlier.
Yeah, he's
not to say
a
that
rock star.
Not to say that our current engineer, he does a great job as well, but
engineers are a weird breed, man.
Yes. We won't even go down that
Yeah.
road. This will be a 5-hour podcast. But
we might need to send Damon to go get some beer if we're gonna go down that path.
well, speaking of the hard 75 hard, I'm actually on I'm like 115 now.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I don't know, I hit that day and hit that mark and I'm like, I don't need it.
No.
And I'll do NAs. But
Yeah.
Anyway, we won't get into that.
We can talk about that later, because that's awesome. I mean, that's good for you.
It's hard. It's hard to do.
Yeah.
But so going back to engineer, like you had talked with Aaron about, the virtual, in the virtual world, in SolidWorks and everything, hypothetically, all these parts are going to fit together and work together, and then you get them made, and then they come in, and it's just, and they don't go together, and you're like, what do I do, and so there's all these little things that people don't realize, and we're kind of running into some of this with the Victor. I mean, this is our 10th iteration of an aero rest, and we actually gave ourselves a 4-week cushion because we, the manufacturer said, this is when we're going to send them to you. And we added a month because we know. And then now here we're probably going to go on 2 months just because of all, we couldn't have predicted the tariffs coming into play and where that affects us. And I don't know if you guys are seeing this. And if you're not, maybe we need to start looking at your machinists. But then if we do that, then that sets us all back. So, but like, there's all these big medical contracts and everything, and all these machinists now are getting inundated. And so we're small potatoes. All these big medical contracts, we're nothing.
Yeah.
So they're like, sorry, pushing your PO back, pushing your PO back,
So
pushing your PO back.
That is the one thing we did, is like in the very beginning, multiple of the machine shops we were working with were in the medical field. We exited all those because we were small potatoes to them, and we still are. I mean, for a lot of our manufacturers, but we're growing to the size where, like, I mean, the majority of them are like bow hunters themselves, and so they know what we're trying to do. So like, if we need something, they're like, hey, yeah, like, we'll get on it. But like, I mean, and that was the hardest part for us is, okay, like, because like a lot of people don't know, like, an archery sight was not our first product. Like, that was what we settled on because that was where we thought we could make the biggest impact, right? But we explored, I mean, every category you could think of, and I really wanted to make a release. Like, I had this idea. It was actually built off of a current design. The patent was up, and I just thought it needed some refinement, but it would be a badass release, right? But I was the only one that was interested in it. So as a team, collectively, we settled on designing a sight. But yeah, it's like, okay, so TJ, whips up this design, and we're like, cool, let's build it. Where do we go, right? And I mean, we knew we were going to be made in the United States. That was not even a question. Like, it had to be made in the United States. But we really wanted to try to keep everything in Minnesota and have that, like, story, right? And I mean, no exaggeration, I think Taylor and I reached out to like every machine shop within like a 3-hour radius of like here. Like, nobody would work with us because coming off of COVID, they were busier than they'd ever been. They were charging more than they've ever been able to charge, right? I mean, like, machine time went from like $60 an hour to $150 an hour, right? Like, it was insane. And with us funding everything ourselves, we were very limited on capital, right? And we kind of got to the point where we were like, nobody wants to work with us. What do we do? Like, we didn't have a single machine shop like on board. And like, we found a few that could do prototyping for us and stuff, but nothing really concrete. And it's like, we almost failed before we even got started because we couldn't find anybody to work with us. And, then we found one machine shop. We had to go outside of Minnesota, obviously. Found one, found another. And I mean, it's taken us up to this point to really dial in like our manufacturing and who we're going to work with. But it's all stuff that like we had no clue, and like, that's where like you like we were talking about like the entrepreneur podcasts and books, like, they're great, but I literally quit reading them because I'm like, these guys are all full of shit. Like, this isn't like, this worked for them, but none of this has anything to do with us. Right. Like, are there concepts and stuff that you can take from it? Sure. Like, really the only thing you take is like, takes a lot of balls, a lot of sacrifice and dedication to run
Yep.
your own business.
Mm-hmm.
End of story.
Yep.
Right? Outside of that, you have no clue until you get into it, right? And that's, we've gotten to the point where we're probably a little too like fly by the seat of our pants, but it's because that's how we've had to be this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because every time we've plans don't always go according to plan. So then it's like, okay, you got to adapt and move, right? And it's been like that since day one. Yeah. And, we're finally getting to a point where we're starting to see a little bit more stability. And, like I said, we got some awesome manufacturing partners. You mentioned the tariffs, like we're completely protected from those. So it's been, I don't want to say like we're to the point where it's like we can kind of like relax, because we're not. Yeah. But it just feels like everything is finally starting to like come together. But I mean, those like first 4 years, man, it was, literally learn as you go. Yeah. Like, we didn't plan from day to day to day. It was like, let's start today and see what happens. And then tomorrow, let's see what happens today. Like, you could not plan anything, because it was just like you had to take it one day at a time. And, ultimately, like, we're not business owners, we're problem solvers. Yeah. That's like Taylor and I and TJ, like our whole team, all we do is just solve problems, right? And, sales kind of just come with it, and the marketing, like, that's all great. But like, if you can't be a problem solver, then, it'll never work, right? But I also think like that's almost kind of like it becomes an addiction. Like, if you don't have a problem to solve, you feel bored, Yeah. And like yesterday, like Taylor and I talked, I'm like, what problems are we solving today? He's like, none. I'm like, yeah, I don't have any either. He's like, so what do we do? I'm like, I don't know.
You guys didn't have to throw on the firefighters.
No, I was like, I don't really know what to do today, because there's no problem to fix today, But I think, again, like it is a, I think that's where, we're very fortunate. And again, it's not by coincidence, like we have the members on our team that we do, because we're all like-minded. We're all problem solvers. We're all competitive. We're, we're very dedicated to like making this work. And, without the guys on our team, and I'll say it, like, without Taylor and Jordan, Dial never would have made it past the first 6 months. Yeah. Because, when it was, we launched November 16th of 2021, we had never even made a site yet. Like, we had the concept, we had some prototype parts. Mm-hmm. And like, I remember, that December, we got invited to the Shields vendor meetings, and we had nothing. We had a box of parts. That was it. And the three of us, we walk into that meeting. I have never been one that like public speaking, like meetings, like nothing really phases me, because it's just like whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I kind of like just don't care. But that meeting, I remember I was like terrified, because like I came from Shields. Like, I worked at Shields all through college. Like, I knew this whole team, and I'm like, we are gonna look like total idiots. Like, this is going to be so embarrassing, because we literally walked in with this box of parts, dumped it out on the table, had our website up, and we're like, okay, imagine this, like, picture this, and we're trying to explain to them, like, this part is going to fit here. This part's going to fit. Yeah, this part fits here. And I remember just sitting there and being like, oh my God, like, funny. This is a disaster. Yeah. And, but like, to see, you could see once they could see what we were trying to do, mm-hmm. and then the excitement. And then I'll never forget the buyer at the time, like Scott Winkles, he kind of pulled me aside and he's like, congratulations. And I was just like, cool. And I remember Taylor and Jordan and I, we went to lunch, and we're just like, we're doing it. Like, we're really doing it, but then it was like, it's literally, it's like one of the biggest emotional roller coasters you can ever be on, because you just go from high to low, high to low, high to low, high to low. Mm-hmm. And it's, I remember, like, at the time, Taylor and I being like, are we ever going to get out of this? Like, are we ever, like, is this ever going to get better? Because it just didn't seem like it was. It seemed like the harder we tried, the worse things got. Yeah. Right. And then, funds were drying up. Like, I've told this story a million times, but like, to start Dialed, like I sold my house, cashed into all my 401ks, sold my truck. I mean, every dollar I had, we put into the company. Taylor took a second mortgage out on his house as collateral so we could get an SBA loan, so it's like we really, just went all in. And then when you're just fighting, but it doesn't feel like you're making any progress, like it takes its toll. I remember Taylor and we had a day where like emotions got the best of us. We had a big blow up, and that was almost the death of Dialed because we just couldn't take it anymore. And we had our little moment, and we looked at each other, and, he's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't want to quit. And he's like, I don't want to quit either. And then it was like the next day we came back even more refreshed, and we hired our first employee, Johnny, who you've met. Without him, I don't know if we ever would have got dug out of, the hole that we were in. But then it was just like, instead of trying to look at this as like one big like hole that you're trying to fill in, let's just fill in these little holes like one at a time. And then things started like coming together. Yeah. And then we finally get to October of last year, and we launched the proof. And now it's like, okay, finally all that time, like all that stress, that anxiety, like high blood pressure, your blood pressure is always high when you own your own business, but like it finally hit, and we're like, okay, this is where we wanted to be from day one. So it's like, I try not to think about the years past because I really don't want to remember them. But at the same time, going through all that, we would never be where we are today, right? And talk about like a learning curve, you know. And again, going back to like the podcast and the books, there's nothing that could have prepared us for what we went through. We just had to go through it,
right?
So
yeah, and you get to this point in life too where you start to realize that nothing good comes easy, right? So if it is easy, you get a mediocre result, right? And then and then to go back to what you're talking about, it's not for everybody, right? But I think the people that have success in it are the ones that kind of feed a little bit off of the stress and anxiety that comes from it. Yeah, like yourself.
You're a little bit psychotic.
Yeah, and not afraid to fail because you're gonna.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I give a ton of credit to these guys that are constantly coming at us like, hey, we want to do, marketing for you. Hey, we want to do this. And it's just like constant coming at you. But you can't have success. You might get 1 out of every 10 pitches might land, right? Yep. And if you're not doing that, if you're just waiting for some opportunity to come about and trip into your life, it ain't going to happen.
Well, and I think
you got to find it, and you got to go get it.
That's such a great point, because I think, again, going through, like, again, thinking back to, like, my years of, like, trying to grow, like, my career and stuff is, like, I very much kind of had that mindset, like, because I was afraid to go out and like be told no or fail. Like failure was like one of my biggest fears. Yeah. And so I think I kind of got to the point where, Dialed was almost like a necessity, because it was my way out. It was my way out of like that trap, that hole. And it's like once we took that first big leap, it's like everything after that is less painful. So like, we get told no every single day, whether it's manufacturing or, being in sales. Like sales, it's like, welcome to the kingdom of no, right? But it's, at the end of the day, I think what's most important to us is just like the brand that we're building and the impact that we're having on the industry and on other people. Like, we never wanted to be like a company, right? Like, we wanted to be a brand that like people got behind and like motivated people, and like if we can help them enjoy archery more, but like also be like an example of like, if you have an idea, like, how many guys do you know, like you're sitting around like in a basement or a garage drinking beer and you're like, hey, you know what a great idea is? Like, we'd all be millionaires if we actually kept track of how many times we've had that conversation. But it's like, you can be those guys. Like, and I think, again, going back to like, I never thought I could be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it took, having Jordan and Taylor as partners to like show me like you can be that guy, but you have to go out and get it. It's not going to be given to you, right? And that's one thing like we say all the time like about our team is, again, like we're very gritty, like we're competitive, and like we are not afraid to work. Like we don't want anything to be easy. We're not afraid to like do the hard work. And it's like once you get into that, like it's like 75 hard, right? Once you get through like the first 3 weeks, it just becomes like easy, right? Until you get to the last 2 weeks and you're like, oh, I'm almost done. Like, like that's where everybody falls off the wagon is like those last 2 weeks. But it's like once you take that first big step, you kind of realize like I always say, like you become comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And, I see it now and I understand it more than I ever have. Like, cause I think back to like the days of where like I had all these ideas and I'd pitch them and I'd be like, no, we don't do that. Or like, no, we're not doing that. I'm like, God, fucking idiots. Like we should be doing this, but I understand more than ever. Like, I mean, innovation, new ideas, like new marketing, it costs money, right? And there are risks involved where like for us, like we look at risks. We're like, fuck it. Like, let's do it. Like, what's the worst that happens, and it's, I mean, you can't always have that mindset, but I think we're in a spot like where we can be more aggressive. But like I said, I mean, looking back, like I understand, like you don't know what you don't know. And I know a lot more now than I did then. So I understand like a lot of those no's and like why things couldn't be done and stuff, but it doesn't mean I'm okay with it. Right. Where there's a will, there's a way. Right. So, it's very, and I think the cool thing about, whether it's, archery or golf or whatever, is that, it's whatever you put into it is what you get out of it. Right. And whether it's the business, the team, whatever. And, I think that's been like the coolest part about Dialed is just like the team we built, like the people, like, I mean, like you and I have known each other for a long time, but I mean, we've communicated more in the last 8 months than we have in the last 10 years. Right. So that's been the coolest part about all this is, we built a badass site and we're building this cool brand, but the people that we've connected with has been the coolest part for me. And that's coming from somebody where I hate people. Like I truly do not enjoy being around like people, but the people that Dialed has connected with, it's like, these are our people. Like these are the people I do want to be around. And like, cause we're all very like-minded, not that like you have to agree on everything. Like, I don't mean like-minded in the sense that like we agree on everything, but at the end of the day, like we're all fighters, like we're all grinders. Like we're not afraid to like chase, some really hard like goals, so it's been a huge growing experience. And, again, it's like, I think back, I'm like, man, if only 10 years ago, if I could have done this, how far ahead would I have been? But I'm also like 10 years ago, you would have gave up after the first 3 days, because that's how I was, so it truly is like timing is everything. It truly, and somebody told me that one time, like, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was like 999 businesses out of 1,000 fail, not because it was a bad idea, bad ownership, whatever. It was bad timing. And it's like, if there was any point in time that we got lucky, it was the timing. Like it was just dumb luck that the timing was perfect for all of us to come together and for this to like be born. Cause like, I mean, I truly think if it was a year on either side, I don't know if we would have been as successful as we've been.
Right.
So, which is kind of crazy to think about, but when it's meant to be, it's meant to be.
Yeah. Timing is huge, and we'll get into that a little bit more. But before we do that, I just want to take a quick break. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you so much for joining us for our 100th episode of the Range Podcast. I want to talk a little bit about a collaboration that we're going to do here with Dialed. We're going to have a huge giveaway to give back to all of our listeners. Thank you so much for being a part of this. We couldn't do it without you. So Vapor Trail, we're going to be giving away an arrow rest of your choice, a set of bowstrings, and a Stokerized stabilizer, as well as a new product that we haven't even launched yet, so you'll get a chance to get a sneak peek at that. And then Scott, why don't you tell them what you guys are going to be able to do for the giveaway?
Yeah, then Dialed, we're throwing in one of our new proof sites. So whoever the winner is, you will be able to customize and build your site how you would like it. So if you go to on our website, go through the 3-day customizer, you can build it out however you want to. And yeah, it'll be your own unique proof site.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for participating and for being a part of this with us. Take a look at the caption below. You'll find the details on how to enter the sweepstakes. And once again, appreciate you. Thanks so much. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. So before the break, we talked a little bit about timing. And so where my brain was going with that is I love how these companies, our companies, like in the archery industry, they're modeled somewhat along the lines of an actual bow hunt itself. Like if you think about it, you know, even if you're just ambush style sitting in a tree stand, right? It's all about timing. Got to be in the right place at the right time. And you think about the grind and the grit that it takes to get, especially starting one from the ground up. I mean, huge props to you guys for, you know, taking the leap. I mean, that's crazy. But at the same time, like you said, you gotta do something to re-energize and feel like you're doing something. You're going somewhere. You're moving the needle, right? And so again, going back to, like, I think about you know, when you first start spotting and stocking, you know, there's going to be a couple of years where, you know, you're just kind of getting the cobwebs out and getting the feels, and you're learning and making mistakes and having failures, and then eventually you get that, you know, fork, or you know, and then so you guys are, I think you guys are well on your way, and I think you still have the goal of, you know, killing the booner. But you know, you talked a lot about, in that podcast you did with Aaron Snyder, you were talking a lot about just the all of the negative comments that you were getting while building the Arxos, and just trying to deal with that, like the mental strain that it takes to get through that process, right? Like, these people don't know, but then you're like, why would I even give these people the time of day? They don't know what's going on. It's not even worth my time.
Right.
But, you know, and me being in the industry too, you don't hear it a lot, but I just want to say to you guys, like, good for you. You guys are doing a really good job, and just keep cranking, right? Like, anytime you have those moments, I mean, you don't need to hear this from me, but still, it's just good to hear it sometimes. And, you know, you're going to have those moments where you're questioning, is this what I want to do? But you just keep grinding.
For sure.
And firsthand, you've seen where it's gotten you, and it's good to see that you guys are kind of able to get back on your heels just a little bit and kind of take a breather, and then now you're at that moment where it's like, okay, how can we continue to move the needle forward? So it was really cool hearing about, geez, it's like I just hit puberty.
Hey, sat on your balls or something like that.
It's that midlife puberty crisis squeaking over here. But yeah, so super cool. It's been a ton of fun watching you guys. And
well, and I'll say something real quick, because I mean, like, you know, you literally went on break, you know, you said that you've been doing this for 20 years, right? And, you know, to just briefly, like, what you just, like, said about, like, the negativity, right? Like, you're always going to have that. No matter what we do, what you do, you're always going to have the haters, right? Like, you can thank social media for that.
Yeah.
But having brands like Vapor Trail, like all these other iconic brands that have done what we're trying to accomplish, like we literally looked at companies like that as like that's where we want to be, right? So, like, kind of having like those companies on like a pedestal, like, that's honestly what kind of helped push us through those hard, like, dark times. And so it's like, when we started Dialed, we wanted to be an example of, like, if you have an idea, if you have a dream, like, chase it. But if it wasn't for the companies that came before us, I mean, we wouldn't have ever we wouldn't have ever thought to, start Dialed. So, I mean, it's like, I appreciate like, your comments and stuff. 'Cause it does mean a lot. Like, as much as we say like, oh, we don't care what other people think, like we do, right? Like, I mean, and I think that was the hardest part for us, is we never wanted to disappoint anybody, right? And going through that startup, we were, and we took that very hard, and nobody will understand that completely because they weren't there with us. But like, you talk about the mental part, like that had more of an impact on us than anything. Like, it wasn't the troubles we had with manufacturing. Like, yes, that was all very stressful, but it was the fact that all these people like were gambling on us and like taking a chance, and we were disappointing them. And like, even to this day, like I wish, all the people that like pre-ordered the Arxos, that we weren't able to fulfill their orders and they ended up going a different direction. I wish I could like go to every single person and shake their hand and be like, hey, I really appreciate you giving us a chance. We failed. We disappointed you, but just the fact that they were even interested like means a ton to us.
Right.
And even now, like, I mean, we still say it, whether it's a dealer or like an e-com consumer, like, thank you for supporting Dialed. But that's not like, that is a sincere thank you. 'Cause like, they don't have to, you know what I mean? Like, there's plenty of other really good products out there, but I've always said, like, if you buy a product from us, like, you are not a customer, you're a team member. And like, that is truly how we feel. And even like you guys, like, even though like you're with Vapor Trail and stuff, like the fact that you're here, you're supporting Dialed, like you are a team member, and that's how we look at it, because without those team members, there's no point in doing any of this.
Right.
Right. And I think when we finally kind of had that like aha moment, that kind of helped like sift through the negativity. And I mean, even still, like, we joke, we had this guy, he gave us a 1-star review because he didn't like the color of our arrow wraps. And like, yeah, I know, right? But like, a couple years ago, we've been like, oh, sorry, man, like, we'll try to do better, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm just like, fuck you, dude. Like, go make your own arrow wraps then, but like, you do get to that point where like, you not like, you don't ever want to come off as arrogant, but like, you're confident. And I think we have hit that point where before we didn't have confidence. Like, we were just trying to do everything we could to survive, but like, we believed in what we were doing, and we believed that we would get there, but there was like a timidness, right? And so we walked on eggshells. We were very kind of like sheepish, and we're now, it's like we can kind of puff our chest out a little bit more because we know we've weathered the storm. And like, our new saying now is stormborn. Like, we are born from a really like gnarly storm, but we weathered that storm, and it's like, we're tougher now than like majority of like our competitors because of what we've been through. And again, you'll never get rid of the negativity. It's just now we sift through what's the constructive negativity and what's people just being assholes and, being jealous or whatever. And like we say all the time, it's like, if you think you can do it better, go fucking do it. Like, seriously, like, go do it and like, see how long you last. You know what I mean? So you but it's still, it's still kind of like, it still has an effect on you, right? 'Cause you want everybody to like what you're doing, you know, but you're never gonna please everybody. But again, like, having support from like industry veterans, like, that's just as important to us as it is like the end consumer. Because I mean, not me, but like, like you said, you've been doing this for 20 years, like, you do have an impact, right? Like, whether it's your inner circle, Vapor Trail customers, like they rely on you, like they trust you, right? So if you're using, product X, they know there's a reason for it. Right. So it's just all part of it. So it's, like I said, I appreciate, the support and the positive comments, 'cause it does, it does mean a lot. And it's what keeps us going.
Yeah,
right.
Man.
I mean, you don't put a ton of weight on it, but there is merit to it.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And likewise, I mean, it's, I watch what you guys are doing and the customer journey that you guys are developing. Yes, the customer journey is under the quote unquote marketing, umbrella, but it's a different way of appealing to your customers and bringing them in as, like you said, a team, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that from you guys, and even just with everything that you guys put out, and even to go back to the way that you guys handled some of the troubles you ran into, you know what I mean? Coming out publicly and saying, taking ownership for it,
Mm-hmm.
and then saying, hey, we're working diligently to fix this for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you had this particular site, let us know, get it into us. We'll get you fixed up. We'll get you back out. And you weren't like hiding behind any sort of mask. It was just like, look, we're people, and there's a lot of cogs and wheels that are out beyond your control. And so I think it's really important to do that. And so bringing, that customer journey that you guys have developed, I think is fantastic. And so I want to emulate that. You know what I mean? I see what you guys are doing in that realm. And even though we've been in this business for a long time, we talked a little bit about like the in-house stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we've always done stuff in-house,
Mm-hmm.
between me and Ears. And I mean, we'd be lucky if we could get a social media post out once a month,
Right.
Where now it's like, we've got Damon on board now, and I've got 2 social media coordinators that help get that content out there. I can't do it myself. I can't. It's not even possible. And then with me being there as long as I have been, and with my tenure, I get pulled into all the operations too. And again, it's just the nature of the beast, right? Because I've been there so long, I have the knowledge.
Right.
And so it's just that's the way that it is. But
a lot of people don't realize, like, whether it's your own business or, somebody else's business, that you're very, very like deep and entrenched into like the culture. It like either way, like they are very demanding, hungry monsters, right? Like they are very demanding, and it's I feel like nowadays that's only amplified because of social media, right? And it seems like, I mean, not to kind of like get off topic, but it's just like from a industry perspective, like the pace at which business is conducted has like, I mean, it is like excelled, right? Like, going to ATA, it always seemed like, again, like even 10 years ago, 15 years ago, like it was just kind of like nonchalant. Like there wasn't, like everybody was there, and it was just kind of like this Wizard of Oz like environment, like, oh, like everybody's just walking around all happy and stuff. Where now it's like business is like boom, 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 boom. Like if you're not getting 2 emails out a week, if you're not making a social media post every day, like you're falling behind. Like it is crazy how fast like business has to be conducted now. And I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing. I think in the end, ultimately it's good because consumers are the ones that benefit from it, but it puts a huge strain on us. And again, whether it's like your own company or like you're part of the management of a company, right? It just demands more and more and more. And Taylor and I, and you literally just said this too, like you get to the point where you realize like, where is it that your time is best spent? And then where do I need help? So like that was a very hard kind of conversation to have with like our team, is because in the beginning we did everything. Yeah. I mean, it was just like somebody do something. I don't care what it is. Like run, packages to the post office while you're there, pick up these parts. Like it was just everybody do something to make sure it's getting done. We're now, like we've fallen into these defined roles where like, I have my own office. It's separate from HQ because this is where I'm needed, right? Yep. I am not needed on the assembly floor anymore. Like, do I miss those days? Yeah. Like I hate like not being part of the crew and like being part of like the everyday like banter. But at the same time, that's not where my value or my efforts are best, utilized. Yeah. But it's a hard it is hard because you want to be involved with everything, right? And like, you know, I get jealous, you know, of like Taylor and Jordan because they get to be on the creative side, right?
Yeah.
And that is what they do best, not me. Like I was telling Damon, like I'm a marketing major, but my marketing major is completely obsolete. Like the practices, like the you know, the methods, I guess, have changed, but the overall like practices are still the same, right? Like marketing 101 is marketing 101, but it's changed so much now that like I'm a dinosaur, you know. Like they just told me that last night in our group text because I don't know how to do a screen record, you know. And so like you know, so it's also a very you know, it takes a lot of trust, which that I think like I've always had like trust issues, but like there's not a single member on our team I don't trust, because if I didn't, they wouldn't be on the team. Right. And like Taylor and I tell each other every day, I trust you more today than I did yesterday. And so that's where like I know those guys are amazing at what they do. I wish I could do what they do, but I'm not that guy. Right. But you know, for me, like dealing with the attorneys, the CPAs, the bankers, like I hate that shit, but somebody's got to be that guy. Right. But it's also the fact that like we're at that point is very cool too. And I think like the same for Vapor Trail, right? Like you've been with the company for 20 years, but yet you're still kind of like developing this role, right? Or your roles have changed to where like now, like, I mean, you operate at a pretty high level, right? And it's like that's pretty freaking cool versus just staying kind of like this is what defines you. Like now you've grown into so much more. And a lot of people, I think so many people miss that. Yeah. Right. Because they get so comfortable with what they're doing that they don't realize like there is more opportunity and your value continues to like elevate. Right. So I think, again, so to give you, you know, props, I think it's cool that like you've recognized that and you've like followed that, but yet at the same time, I mean, you still have your hands in obviously some of the, you know, the marketing and stuff, which again, like that's something I couldn't do. You know, like this is my realm. Outside of that, I have no clue. Right. So
and to speak to like what you were saying is I guess it's very similar to you. I get jealous of the creative and marketing role that I wish I could do all day long. You know what I mean? Like that's what I want to do. And right now that's 90% of what I'm doing. Well, with the launch of the Victor, it's been probably about 50-50, but you know, then once we get into the busy season, you know, July, August, you know, then it's like now I'm back getting pulled into the operations side of things and customer service side of things, because we were just getting inundated with customer service calls, you know, and it's like,
oh, that's so much fun.
You always have to, I always get the challenging ones, you know what I mean? And it's, you know, always fun to try to, you know, walk someone off the ledge that's tweaking out because something happened, you know, and usually we can narrow it down to it being a, you know, user error, typically. But again, you got to know, you have to go through that a few thousand times to like know how to walk people through that process without pissing them off. And then they're like out the door, you know, and you get those guys. And like you were saying earlier about the guy with the wraps, like you eventually, sometimes you get guys where you're just like, you're not even worth my time. You know, I've spent so much time trying to fix this problem for you. And now you're just being straight up rude.
Yeah, you're just being a douche.
I'm just done with you and whatever. You can go out and tell people all you want.
Right.
I mean, people would go on Archery Talk, and if anybody ever went on Archery Talk and talked some shit about Vapor Trail, better watch out, because ears would get in there. Oh yeah. And he would make you look like an idiot in 4 words.
Right. Yeah. I'm not that good. Archery Talk is literally it is. I hate Archery Talk, but I mean, that's like the other thing though, is again, I mean, just where we're at, like society, everybody thinks they're so tough, you know, the keyboard warriors, right? But, and you know, like that was like my main role in the beginning was customer service. And man, like, you know, again, we were trying to do everything and anything we could. And like, I'd be up to like 2 a.m. answering customer service emails. And then you'd get that one guy that would just push your buttons, and I'd be like, you know what, fuck this, like, and I would just unleash, same thing. And next thing, like, they'd be like, hey man, sorry, I had a bad day, I took it out on you, you know, whatever. It's like, all right, man, like, I'm sorry, but like, next time, let's just go about this a different way. But then you do get the people where no matter what you do, no matter how above, like, and I know Vapor Trail is the same way, like, we put customer service before anything, right? Like, people spend a lot of their hard-earned money on our products, and we want to be more than just it's a transaction, right? Like, you buy a product from us, you get our full support, like, but if it gets to the point where, like, they have to hear from one of us, okay, like, there's a major issue here, or this guy's just being, or this person is just being unreasonable. But it takes someone like us to talk them off the ledge. But the fact that they can reach one of us 99% of the time resolves the issue. Like, they just want to be heard, right? Yeah. But they don't want to just be heard by some customer service person, which, no offense to, like, customer service reps, like, but sometimes it just takes the right person to where you just need to hear them out, right? Yeah. But, you know, at the end of the day, like, there are people where you're just like, you know what, I don't even want you as a customer. Go buy something else, right? Like, send us the product back. Here's your money back. Get lost. Don't ever talk to us again. Yeah. Like, you do have those people. But like I said, I think overall, and again, like, I think that's, like, what's cool between, like, Dialed and Vapor Trail is, like, the synergy between, like, the brands and, like, the personality behind the brands. And, like, we are actual people. We're not companies, right? And I think now more than people are buying into that. Yeah. Because they are tired of being treated like shit by all these other bigger companies that really don't give a shit about them. They just want their money. Absolutely. Right. And so when you do have those, you know, those tough conversations, like, they're never fun, but 99% of them can be talked out. Right. Yeah. And then the 1% that can't, it's like, all right, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been down that road a few times.
Yeah.
And again,
and you always will.
I don't need you. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want you as a customer if I'm going to have to deal with this every single time you buy one of our products. You know, if you can't be smart enough to, you know, get the right person to set it up, or at least heed the advice from the actual manufacturer themselves, then you go be someone else's problem.
Well, and that is the hard part, because generally we have a resolution, because we do this every single day. Yeah. Right. Yeah. There's very rarely a unique scenario that we don't already have the solution. But if you're not going to listen to us, then I don't know what to do. Yeah. Like, I can't help you. Yeah. Like, if I'm literally giving you the solution, but you're either too arrogant or you just flat out don't want to do it, then, man, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. Right. And we've definitely have dealt with that recently, especially with, you know, like, certain issues we've been having with, like, windage adjustment. Right. And again, not to, like, go on a tangent, but this is, like, it fits, because is there an issue? Yes, but it's not our issue. Right. It's a bow manufacturer's issue that we are having to deal with. Yeah. But until they correct it, anything we do is just a Band-Aid. Yep. Right. But yet we're going to do everything we can to try to make sure that we take care of the customer that bought our product. But in the end, it's not our issue. Yeah. So, like, you know, that's where I get frustrated, because, again, like, we are telling you what needs to happen based on that manufacturer's recommendation to us. Like, I think a lot of people are just like, they think we're just full of shit and we're trying to cover our own asses, because that's what most people would do. But it's like, no, like, like we always say, like, we're consumers first, business owners second. And it's like, we are actively working with company X to try to resolve this. This is what they're telling us per word, like, verbatim. This is what they're telling us. If you don't want to listen to that, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. But, like, we've gotten to the point now where it's like, okay, you know what? We just need to fix this and move on. Right. But again, like, if you're going to come to us and be like, hey, I'm having issues with this, I've heard this before. I know how to fix it. This is the fix. If you don't want to implement that fix, that's on you.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Yep.
but it is tough because you want to, there's such a fine line between quality customer service and being taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know where that line is. Like it's different. It's different for every scenario, but eventually you do just have to cut your losses and be like, look, man, thanks, but no thanks.
Yep.
Like wish you the best. Maybe we'll, get you down the road sometime, but honestly, I don't really care.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So, excuse me. So I want to go back to probably 9 or 10 years ago. And I think this is when I first met you. I think was at NABA, either 2015 or 2016. I'm not sure. And here's the thing. I may have met you before that, and you might have to tell me this. I may have met you before that, because if you've been going to ATA since year 1, what was the first year of ATA?
I mean, that was like, it was in Indiana.
Early 2000s? Because the first
it
one
would
I
have
went
been,
to,
it would have been like 90. It would have been like mid to late 90s.
Okay. Yeah, because the first one I went to, I think, was 08 or 2007 or 08 or something like that.
I think the first one I ever went to, I was like 13, I think. So that would have been like 96, 97.
Yeah, that's wild, because
it was like early mid to late 90s, somewhere in there. I don't remember the exact year, but I was like, because I was hunting, but I think like it was either my first year or two of hunting, because like at that time, Wisconsin, you had to be 12 before you could hunt.
Yeah.
So it was like 95, 96, I want to say.
Yeah.
I could look back and find out, because I still have like original brochures that I picked up from that first
awesome.
ATA. Yeah.
That'd be cool to see those. But that's what I love about these conversations, because I don't know if we would have ever had that conversation. I usually, to kind of go back to what you were saying, we've known each other for a while, but we've talked more recently in the last 8 months. But I usually see you at TAC, and so we'll sit down and chat a little bit there. But so I remember being in, not the building we're in now, but the one we were in before that. We had just moved in there, and it's right around the time when you guys were just starting to get going. And I think, we'd been working with Josh Hubbs for a while, and so he started shooting your site. And then we had a couple other customers that were coming to our pro shop that had the Arxos too. And so then I kind of, was following along, just seeing what you guys were up to. And all of a sudden I see this video, and you had to know that this was coming. But I see this video on YouTube, and it's this dude, and he's like on a couch with his boots, wearing some silk underwear and a shirt and long hair.
I didn't have a shirt.
And I'm like, oh, what the heck is this? And I hit play, and I go, no. I'm like, is that Scott? So at this point, I had no idea that you were involved at all.
Yeah,
I did not know.
Yeah, nobody
and
did.
So I was like, huh. All right. And hilarious video, by the way. And props to you for putting yourself out there. I mean, it's just hilarious, right? I don't know.
I mean, anybody that knows me was not surprised by that video.
Right?
But yeah.
But I was just more surprised that, again, just knowing your history and who you were with prior and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, oh, okay. And honestly, that really kind of ignited something where I started even paying more attention. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it was for the general public, but just for me, it kind of got that stuff going. And then right about that same time, we've got, I think as Mark Melitik came in, and he was doing a broadhead test, I think, in our shot. He wanted to use our 40-yard range. And so he comes in, and him and his crew, they're getting everything set up, and there's this young guy that's got a appetite for, getting things done. His name's Damon Wolf. He's with them, right? And so that's...
Never heard of her.
Yeah, right? So he's in the room, by the way. But so that's when I first met Damon. And it was, I don't even know if I shook his hand or anything. I can't even remember. But then
it's probably like that stepbrother moment. It's like, hey,
yeah,
you got to call me Dragon.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you got to call me Dragon. But anyway, so then then later on, I don't know, a few weeks or month or something like that, he comes in and then it's like, hey, if you ever need anything. And so that's how that whole thing kind of developed. And so but anyway, so I of course had to point out the scooter rocking thing, and then Taylor sent me the post. I think you guys did it for Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
He sent me that one too, and so I got a kick out of that. But just going back to, you know, how long we've known each other, and then all the tacks and everything that we've talked at, and then imposter syndrome, right? And so I have a little bit of that, and like I was hesitant to move over to Dialed for a while, just because I was I was following along, and I was seeing what was going on. I'm like, okay, working in the manufacturing industry, I know how these things go, and I'm like, I know they're gonna work through it. There wasn't any doubts in my mind that you guys weren't gonna survive, but it was just watching how you guys were handling things, and I'm like, okay, I know they're gonna get to the bottom of this, and they're gonna rectify anything. And then I'm talking to you at TAC, and I'm just like, oh yeah, we're gonna maybe make this film and stuff, and so, you know, wondering, you know, if maybe you want to help out, and boom, it was just, you're like, dude, just whatever, send me what you need, we're in, sight unseen, you know. And I'm just like, oh, okay, great, you know. And so super appreciative of that, you know. That was huge for us. I mean, not just our brand, but like you said, this whole collaboration of us all coming together and just creating really cool content, having fun with it. It does suck at times where, like, we don't get to shoot our bows as much. We don't get to do as much hunting as we'd like to. But there is something about it. Like, I think if I was ultimately, what I really like to do is the creative side of things and marketing, right? But if I was doing it for, like, I don't know, some, you know, food brand post or something like that, I don't think I would enjoy it as much.
No.
I need to be able to feed that,
right?
You know, and have those conversations. TAC, man, all the great people you meet there, and all the conversations you have, and the fun, and it's just so. So I do feel blessed to be in this industry. It does have its downfalls and it does have its struggles, but
I mean, that would be like, I mean, and that's the one thing we all like talk about and joke about. It's like, you know, if you truly enjoy archery and hunting, the worst thing you can do is get into the industry and stuff. And like, I think there is some truth to that, but at the same time, I don't think the quality of work we do would be like what it is like now, because we wouldn't have the passion, right? And like, I think for me, you know, I joke all the time, like, I never get to shoot my bow. Like, last year I bow hunted 3 times. Right. Like I've gun hunted more in the last 4 years than I have bow hunted because of the timing. Right. I mean, being an archery company, when's the best time to archery hunt? November. Right. Yeah. Well, that's when all of our guys want to take their PTO because they want to chase the rut and stuff. Well, if they're gone, somebody's got to be, you know, back at the shop. Right. But I think for me, like, I just, as much as I joke around about it, like, I'm okay with it because so much of my life, like, you know, I've been very lucky to do a lot. Like, I mean, been to Africa, been to Alaska, like, been to a lot of different places, to where, like, now though, I get to live vicariously through, like, other people. And, like, you know, that video that you guys did, right? Like, I would love to go do that. It's just not in the cards for me. But if I can support that and be a part of it, like, on the outside, that's awesome. Right. And, you know, you bring up TAC, like, TAC is an absolute grind. I mean, I leave next week for 4 weeks. Right. And it's a lot of time away from home. It's a lot of wear and tear, but that is, like, I made the comment, like, I hate people, and I truly do. But when I'm at TAC, I love that crowd because it is a mix of, you know, beginners, veterans, but everybody is there just to have fun.
Yeah.
And it's like one weekend, everybody, like, cause, you know, and again, not to get off on a tangent, but one thing we can all agree is, like, there's a lot of infighting within our industry. Right. Yeah. And whether it's on social media, marketing, whatever, but it's like, everybody's always trying to be somebody. And it's like, man, I don't care what you post, like, you're not that cool. Right. But at TAC, everybody's just there to have fun and shoot their bows. Right. And us as manufacturers, like, people just want to come there and learn, you know, and, like, this year has been so cool because, you know, you brought up like the hesitancy. Like that's not a new conversation for us. Like there was a ton of people that were hesitant, but they were just sitting and waiting, being like, I think I'm curious what these guys are going to do. Right. And we did. Like we came out with the proof in October, but now to like the amount of conversation where it's like, yeah, I've been following you since day one. Like I really wanted to get the Arctos, but man, I don't know. But when you guys launched the proof, like, and we saw that, right? But it's just cool. You truly, I don't know. It's just cool to like I enjoy talking to people like at the tax because they just want to talk, right? Like we go to the trade shows and it's business, right? Like, and it's like you're always getting yelled at, you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like it's just where, I don't know. And I think like, you know, I said this once before, like having Dialed, I mean, my passion for hunting was almost to zero, to where like, I mean, being in the archery industry is all I've ever done. I've never had a job that didn't involve archery. And I was to the point where like I needed a change and I was ready to exit. And we all know guys that have, and so many of them are like, man, like I miss it, you know? And that was one of my biggest fears is like, if I get out, one, it's really, really hard to get back in because you get replaced really quick. You get forgotten about. And it's just very, like I said, it's very fast paced right now, but it's very cutthroat too. But my passion was gone. But now it's like that fire has been reignited again, but it's because of like other people, right? Like this opportunity to sit with you guys, like meeting people at the tax, you know, getting to talk with like Schneider and just all these opportunities that we've been able to like, or that has been put in front of us. It's like now my passion is slowly coming back, but it's just a little bit different. Yeah. Like I still enjoy hunting a ton and, you know, like guiding has like kind of changed my perspective. But like, you know, last year, those couple days that I got to whitetail hunt, that was the most fun I've had in a long time. And I didn't even kill anything. But it's like my passion is still there. Yeah. Right. But it's just different. Yeah. You know, but like, again, now it's like everything we do, I live vicariously through other people and I'm good with that, you know, but like it has changed too in the sense that it's like, now it's like, if I do go hunting, you feel like you have to like capture it and like, you know, document it for content. And that's not me. Like I am the guy where like, if I kill something, a handful of people will know. Yeah. Because that's just not me. Right. But so I don't necessarily like that part of it, but like I said, there's just so many other layers to it now to where that fire has definitely been reignited. But like, I don't feel the need to like spend, you know, 60, 70 days hunting a year like I used to. Like I still, you know, there's all these trips that I still want to do at some point. Like, you know, I've really gotten into hunting out west and, you know, so there's still a lot that like I want to accomplish, but it's like, though that will come, but like right now I'm just enjoying this time. Yeah. And like it is different, but I'm good with it. Right. And you know, like I joke all the time, like instead of shooting my ball, I want to go play golf. And it's like, I love golf. You know what I mean? Like I've almost developed just as big of a passion for that, or like going to the gun range. And so, but like, I don't think, and like I said, I couldn't say this 5 years ago, like my passion for archery will never, it'll always be there. But I couldn't say that 5 years ago. Yeah. Like I said, like it was out. I mean, I was ready just to quit hunting and find something new to do. But it's just because of, you know, I needed that mental reset and I needed, you know, a group of guys to kind of like lift me up. And like I said, now it's almost to the point where like your passion drives and motivates you every day. Because now it's like when somebody sends us a success picture and like, how many success pictures do you guys get? Right. And you're like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. Yep. You know, like we had a dealer just text us, like he killed a giant black bear like 2 weeks ago. I'm like, hell yeah. Yeah. Like I'm almost more excited for them than if I would have killed it. Right. Yep. So it's just different now.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. Like taking Griff and Joey Visser out and them getting their birds, you know, within the first couple hours of the morning. I mean, that did it for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like despite me and Damon sitting in the blinds 6 or 7 or 8 more days, I don't even know how long we sat, but that could have been it for me, and I'd have been satisfied, you know.
Right.
And Damon's like, oh man, I feel bad, you know what I mean? Like, we got to get you a bird. And I'm like, hey man, we're good. Like, you guys had a phenomenal season. I'm happy to have been even just a smidgen part of that, and just being there with you guys and being part of the celebration is amazing. And so
I think, I almost think like, I think more people could use that like realization.
Yeah.
And because like I said, like the hunting I did last year, like I archery hunted in Ohio, and which is a first for me, and did see the buck that I wanted to kill, like one of the biggest deer I've ever, you know, like have had eyes on, like while hunting. And that, like, I didn't kill him, but I'm like, the fact that I had him at 50 yards, couldn't get a shot, but it worked. Like the plan came together, and I'm like, this is so awesome. Like, I mean, it sucked because like in Minnesota, our season ends the end of December, right? And I got home, I'm like, where else can I go hunting? Like I was so into it.
Yeah.
And like the weather was garbage. I mean, it was a horrible like weekend of hunting, but I'm like, I'm back.
Yeah.
Like this was so epic, you know, and I'm going to go back this year, and I'm like, I'm going to kill that deer. Right.
Yeah.
And it's been like, I don't remember the last animal I killed with my bow. It was either an antelope or a whitetail, but it's been a long time. But again, like, you know, like I watched Damon's video was that last year? That your video that you did you kill a deer last year in Wisconsin? Yeah. Yeah. Like watching that, like the whole time I'm like, God, I hope he kills a deer, you know, like that'd be so cool. And then you did, I'm like, hell yeah, man, that's awesome.
Yep.
You know, like, so it's almost you almost become like a fan, you know, more than like the participant. But like, I think that's what has led to, again, that passion coming back. And like I said, I think more people could probably use a year or two of just like sitting on the sidelines and being that supporter, rather than always being the one that like has to be the one killing something. And because I think that's kind of like where our industry has gotten, and it's not good.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where, I mean, I like going back to like when we first started Dialed, like, and you talk about that video, the Valentine's video, that was like the introduction that I was part of Dialed. Only a handful of people knew prior to that. And, you know, the joke, the funny part about that story is like, you know, when I quit my job, I called my parents, said, hey, I'm quitting my job and I'm starting an archery company. And, you know, my dad being a business owner, he's like, that's awesome. Like, how can we help? You know?
Cool.
And then my mom's like, you're stupid. It'll never work.
Oh,
like,
man.
You know,
but that's what you need.
Well, but it's a mom being a mom. Like,
Sure.
she was terrified.
Yeah.
She worried, you know, like it wasn't out of like maliciousness. She was being a mom. Like, she was being protective. Right. But like when that video launched, she obviously saw it, and I'll never forget like the phone call, and I saw it. I'm like, fuck. And I love my mom to death, but she's like, this is what you're doing? Really? This is what you quit your job to do? Like yeah. I'm like, it's marketing, Mom. She's like, this is not marketing. Like, I don't know any other company that would do this. I'm like, well, that's the whole point. Like, you know, but,
yeah.
So, but it, you know, again, that was like, you know, again, it was just like, that's what, like, it was like that ignition, like, where was I? Oh yeah. So that video launches, and, you know, again, whether it was in the industry or outside of the industry, like, these network are people, you know, and like some of them you consider friends, some of them are just acquaintances. Right. But it was in that first like year or two where we found out who our true friends were and who were the fake people. Because even to this day, there are a lot of people that I have never heard from since Dial's launched.
Really?
Yep. And there's plenty of people that were like, good for you, man. Like BA from Prime, one of the first ones to call me and be like, congratulations, man. And I'll never forget that. But it's like, I didn't realize I needed that at the time, but I'm very thankful for that, because it got rid of a lot of people that I realized, I'm like, you know what? Like, I don't really like you or need you,
Yeah.
you know? And I think it was a complete like reboot for me personally. And you truly found out like the people that cared about you and the people that were friends with you because of what you could do for them or
Yeah.
what you could get them. Right. And even now, like, because Dialed is growing, like you're starting to see, you know, there's definitely, and you know it, like people come to you and they're like, hey man, like they want to be friends of you, but it's because like, what can you do for me?
Yep.
Right. But because I've been through that once, it's like, hey man, like cool, like get lost. Like, nah, dude, like we're not going through this again.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Yeah.
but, and it's now to where, like I said, it goes back to like, if you've ordered from us or if you haven't ordered from us, like if you believe in like the American dream, made America, and like what we're trying to do, you're team Dialed.
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have bought something from us, but it's also on the flip side, like if you're somebody that's going to like talk shit about us and like take shots across our bow, like that's a very bad move on your part. Because again, like we are developing this confidence to where, I mean, it's like, I mean, that's the whole reason I got it tattooed on my hand, like Darren Broca. Like you take a shot at us, we're sending 3 back. You won't know when or how, but there will be shots fired back. Right. And that's a very powerful,
I
like
love that.
feeling, but not only in business, but just in life too. And that's like the one thing I never expected, like out of Dialed, is just how much just in general, like I've learned just about life, right? Not about business, but just life, right? And I never realized how immature I was until we started Dialed.
Yeah.
And I do think in the last like 4 years, like I'm a completely different person, you know? So and I'm very thankful, you know, for that, but also thankful for the guys that, you know, I've been able to become closer with and meet, because like I need more guys like that in my life that like and not just guys, like, you know, people, girls, guys, whatever, but people that, you know, truly have your back, like they want to see you succeed, but you know, like they motivate you, they push you, right? Like, and I always say, like, unless you provide some sort of positive energy or impact on my life, like we won't ever know each other.
Yeah.
Because I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't want that. So it is amazing how, like, you know, and again, it just goes back to timing, you know, like it's just kind of wild. But, and I go back to like the coincidences, like there are no coincidences. Like we've known each other for a long time, but it's like, that's no coincidence, you know, like it was always going to end up at like this at some point.
Right.
It just, we didn't know it, you know? So,
and even to go back to the people that you are like, well, you realize that relationship is no longer important. You realize, and it's a little hard to think like all the time that you spent and energy you spent on having a relationship with that person, and then now it's just like just severed. But then you also take comfort in knowing that that was part of the path, right? Like that was the person that needed to be in my life in order for me to figure that out. And just like I can look back and some of the more difficult people that I have had to deal with and that I currently have to deal with has helped me kind of look inward to myself too and grow. Just like you're saying, you know, like I feel like I've grown exponentially in the last 5 years.
100%.
Like, because you get to this point and then you're just like, man, something's got to get, like, nothing is happening. The needle's not moving. What's going on? Yep. I need to figure this out. So I'm really excited for you guys. I'm really excited to see you getting your heads above water. And, like, I want to see you all golfing, man.
Barely above water.
And hunting. And it just made me think, too, like, gosh, we should do I've always wanted to do this. A1 Archery out in Hudson used to do it, where they had it was a golfing archery combo tournament.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I've always wanted to revive that. And like, so we have a golf course right next to our shop. And so it's like, it'd be fun to do a tournament.
It'd be cool
golf/archery tournament. We could do a 3D indoor, and then we could go golf 9 holes right next door.
Yeah, that would be fun. Yeah.
Something we might have to
because I mean, like, and again, not to get off on a tangent, but like golf and archery, like they're one and the same. You know, it's a discipline, right? Like, yeah, you have to learn like form and stuff like that, but I mean, it's on you, right? And like one day you can shoot just lights out. You can, you know, like you play the best round ever, And then the next day, it's the complete 180. You shoot like shit. You're hitting the ball like shit, but yet you still want to come back the next day and do it again, right?
Yeah.
Like, so no, that something like that would be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, cool, man. I really appreciate this. It's been a good chat. I wish we could sit here and talk some more, but, you know, we got stuff we got to do.
Oh yeah.
So,
yep.
But yeah, thanks again for your time so
Thank
much.
you.
It was really great learning a little bit more about you, and you know, I'm excited to. I know maybe I talked about how exciting and fun tax are, but part of the reason why we don't have a booth there anymore is because I wanted to go there and have fun.
Right.
So I know that you're always the guy that's like stuck in the booth and having to do all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, that's I enjoy it, man. Like, people always ask, "Did you ever get to shoot?" I'm like, no. Like, somebody's got to be in the booth. But
yeah.
again, that's where I'm most needed, right?
Yeah.
And like, if I'm being completely honest, I have no interest in spending like 4 to 5 hours walking a course and shooting 25 targets. Like,
it does take a
I have
long
the
time.
attention span of like a red squirrel. So like, I could shoot 2 to 3, 4, 5 targets, and then I'm like, all right, cool, guys, like, go ahead and finish. I'm going back. So like, I live on the practice range. Like,
Yep.
I have just as much fun shooting on the practice range because I can go shoot, you know, 20, 30 arrows, and then I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. So it's, yeah, man, I'm good with hanging out in the booth and being the carny.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I've heard Sean talk about that. We're just a bunch of TAC crews, a bunch of carnies.
We are.
We're
We're just a bunch of, well, Billy from UV says gypsy, but
gypsy.
I think that's being a little too generous. Yeah, we're just bow carnies.
Yeah. Russ and Kelly at Badass Outdoor Gear and the whole
I know.
crew that goes to everyone.
Well, but I mean, that's the cool thing is like now, I mean, because I've been doing tax since like, tax started, you know, but you do become like a tax family, you know, and it, not to prolong this any longer, but it's like, yeah, I mean, badass. Like, I mean, Russ and Kelly took me in on my, like, I had no clue. I was a fish out of water, right?
Yeah.
But they like took me under their wing and like showed me the ropes of tack, like what to do, what not to do, you know, and it's like, and I mean, all the vendors, like, and even like competitors, right? Like, if the cool thing is, if anybody needs anything, everybody's there. Like, what do you need? Like, I mean, like if I'm going to be late and you know, cause setup is usually Thursday on a 3-day event, be like, hey, I'm not going to get there till really late. Everybody's like, what do you need? Like, what do you need set up? You know, and where everybody's like that, right? Or it's like, if you need a tool or like if you need anything, like everybody there is willing to just help out.
Yeah.
Like, it's almost like all the bullshit just goes away and everybody's just there because it's archery.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it's very cool. And again, like, I wish that could just be how it always is.
Right.
But I mean, that's not reality, but it is, yeah, we're a bunch of carnies, but I mean, we're a family, you know?
Yeah.
And like, I mean, like Russ and Kelly, I mean, how many times have they hosted like a dinner, you know, at their condo or, you know, there's just always somebody just like, hey man, like come over, like drink some beer and, you know, whatever. It's just like, as big of a grind it is, it's also very, I don't know. It's, I don't know where else you could get that type of like camaraderie, you know?
There's certainly worse places you could be.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So I imagine that's probably going to be the next time I see you. I don't know whether it'll be at Terry Peak or what happens with that Snow River, Michigan deal, but and we'll talk about that some more. But so yeah, one thing I wanted to talk about and something we're really excited about is a collaboration that we're going to do together to celebrate the 100th episode. We want to give back to the listeners, so we're going to do a big giveaway. And so we're going to be, Dialed has been gracious enough to donate a dialed proof sight, a custom sight. We're also going to do a Vapor Trail arrow rest. We're going to do a set of custom bowstrings and a stabilizer, Stokerite stabilizer of your choice. So this is like this is pushing a $2,000 package depending on what you end up getting as far as some of the accessories. So super huge. And thanks so much for being a part of this. You know, I can't thank you guys enough for everything that you've done for us. I did want to talk a little bit too about the sights that we've brought into our pro shop now. You guys got us taken care of with that, despite your turnaround time, we were able to get some of those in there, and we've actually sold one already.
Great.
And so we've got 2 in house, plus my bow hangs in there all the time, so people can look at it. And I just recently got one in the bourbon.
Oh yeah.
And I've got that on my form, which is in morel, and those 2 colors. It just looks like a classy bow, man.
Yeah.
It
I love like the matching colors is cool, but I love like that's one of my favorite color combos is like that. So that morel, which is like a kind of OD green, and then like going like with a brown, whether it's the whiskey or the clay or whatever, like it gives it that multicam look. Like I love the what is that contrast.
Yeah.
Like I said, the matching stuff looks cool, but having that contrast, I think it makes it look like a hunting rig, So yeah, that's a badass combo.
Yeah. And I apologize. It's whiskey.
Whiskey is our color.
Yes. So because Matthews has their color, then you guys have your color. Then we have our name for the color that matches it, which is Scotch.
Mm-hmm.
So,
we're all a bunch of alcoholics.
Yeah.
Scotch, bourbon, whiskey. I say yes to them all.
Yep, exactly. Although I would argue that Scotch tastes a little bit like a good glass of whiskey with a cigar put out in it.
Yeah.
So I'm not
a big Scotch. I'm not a big Scotch drinker. No, but bourbon and whiskey for sure.
But yeah, thanks again, man. Really appreciate that. Again, one of those things where you didn't bat an eye. You're just like, yeah, tell me what you need. And so I appreciate that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And so stay tuned to our social media channels and to some future episodes where we'll talk a little bit more about how you can enter that contest and win that huge prize package. Well, thanks again, folks, for joining us. You can find the video version of this episode on the Vapor Trail YouTube channel. Make sure you head on over, give us a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you can be up to date on all things archery. And of course, if you're listening, give us a rating and a review. Only 5 stars will do. And with that, we're going to pack up our bows and arrows, and we're hitting the range. Have a great day, everybody. Vapor Trail is now offering an exclusive discount to the Range Podcast listeners. Enter promo code TRP15, that's TRP15, at checkout for 15% off VTX bowstrings and Vapor Trail and Stokerized branded t-shirts, hats, and other gear.